Catus, Maximus here, this time with a review of this Stanley interchangeable T-handle set. Seems a bit odd for the naming because it's a 1/4-inch drive T-handle, which I did like the idea of. And then it is a pretty decent set, 20 bits. We have a combination of 6-inch, 5-inch, and 4-inch. It comes with a 5-piece fractional hex set. And then on the back it comes with a 5-piece metric hex set. I do like the way these bits are turned down so that they fit into tighter recesses. It can make them a little bit weaker, but they're still not too bad. And then we have a variety of 2-inch bits. This whole case is like really designed for these bits not to come out. These used to be sold at hardware stores and then they kind of disappeared a few years ago. I did find this as obviously new old stock. Anyway, I like the idea of it because it's a 1/4-inch drive T-handle, and it's a short one instead of a long one. All the ones I've seen are long ones. But as far as the way this set is done, you gotta, like for the small bits, we have to push out this little block, and now we can get access to those small bits. We have 3 torque sizes here. I'm gonna end up not keeping this in its case. But we have 3 common torque sizes. These are chrome vanadium, so we have a T25, a T20, and a T15. And then a number 1, number 2 Phillips, and a slot head down here. I just like the idea of the set just because it seemed to be pretty good for actually a pretty wise selection. We have to cut that out so that we can attempt to pry this thing open, which is a little bit strange. I mean, this is one of the most difficult I was fiddling around with it, but this packaging here is just insanity, to tell you the truth. Trying to get this thing open. Kind of was thinking I was gonna, I mean, this thing is nuts. I was thinking I was gonna use this to hold the bits, but I'm not going to when it's this difficult to get into. I'm just gonna go ahead and cut this open. There we go. So these bits aren't too bad. One thing that is interesting, and I was looking online about these, is the fact that these are not designed to work in any kind of locking or impact drivers. It is actually surprisingly rare to find bits like this that don't have the undercut for the locking ball bearing. None of them do, and we can see the shank is actually pretty tall, so they're actually kind of specifically designed just for this set. But once again, it's kind of hard to find sets that have really long bits, and that was really what attracted me to it, was particularly not the Phillips and stuff, because those are pretty easy to get a hold of, but these hex bits, especially these extra long ones, are not easy to find. And so that's what really made me pretty stoked about this. Let me get the rest of the bits out. Stanley really overdid it on the packaging. They probably spent as much money on this packaging as they did on the rest of the tools in this. So here we have the driver handle. Decent overmold. This set is unfortunately made in China. Silkscreen, forgot the words there, but they do emboss Stanley. I kind of like the bright green handle because it's easier to see. It is solid. And I read a couple, actually I found some forum posts about this, and that's one thing people noticed was just the actual solidity of this T-handle. It's actually surprisingly solid. And yes, a 1/4-inch hex bit is just a 1/4-inch piece of steel. You really only know which direction to use it in just based on, actually I can't even find any of the markings on this. I guess it doesn't really matter because on something like this, you can use it in either direction. So it uses a magnet. It is pressed in using with a little brass collar, so that prevents the magnet from getting too chipped up. And it is a substantial piece of steel right in there. And so that's the kind of the deal. It's just a T-handle. It's offset, and I think that's generally okay. And the whole deal with these, and what made me so stoked about it, was the fact that you can use this with anything, but you get just so much pressure, especially when you're using something like a Phillips. Where are my, here's my Phillips. God, this set's been sitting around for a long time. The hex is actually pretty tight, as we can see here. Now, what I also liked about it, here we go, is you can just put the normal little 1-inch bits in there. So definitely really compact T-handle in that situation, or in this situation. And once again, like if you're working with a pretty tough number 3 Phillips, you can really just get a ton of downward force on there and then really get a good purchase to be able to turn it. And so I really like the idea of this. I'm surprised Stanley stopped selling it, because it's actually not a half bad unit. And before I forget, I was experimenting with a magnet because I just was really surprised. I mean, this handle is surprisingly heavy, and this T-handle actually is steel all the way through. So that actually kind of stoked me out. This is a surprisingly well-made handle, but then all the bits that they've included with this set, even though they are ground pretty nice. I mean, that is I believe a GIS standard. Is just how they cheapified not just putting the undercuts, but if we take a look, most bits will have a little notch, and that's for various spring retainers and stuff. It's a standard. You'll basically, all bits have this little notch in them if they don't have the undercut, and these don't even have that. So they really, I mean, they are chrome vanadium bits, but they saved money on the machining, and then actually have kind of an overkill handle. And I think the whole set really, it was worth the handle by itself, but nonetheless, the wisdom of including the selection of the bits, because we have a 6, 5, 4, 3, and 2.5 millimeter bits, and then the 5 most common sizes of fractional hex bits, as well as having really long as well and some shorter bits. I think the only thing that's really missing is they should have made it like a 24-piece set and included some 4-inch or 6-inch Torx bits. But it's actually a surprisingly useful and, in my opinion, surprisingly well thought out selection of bits. Metric and fractional hex, and then the general Phillips and Torx bits, some of the most common fasteners you're going to run into. And Stanley could have been onto something, but I think this handle by itself, I saw some of these on eBay, being steel cord, really, this makes it worth it all by itself, irrespective of even the bits that it comes with. And having the bits is just an extra bonus. Anyway, for some reason I talk too long in my videos. Just wanted to do one about this little Stanley set and how it's actually probably one of the best 1/4-inch drive T-handles I've seen so far. It really is pretty darn nice. And what's also neat is I also have this oddball 1/4-inch extension, which also doesn't have any undercuts or anything in it. So it's something that's essentially perfect to use with this. Anyway, just wanted to share this with you all. The overmold actually isn't too bad, kind of like the corrugations. But as far as I've seen, as far as ergonomics and, you know, overall design and strength, this is one of the best 1/4-inch bit T-handles I've seen thus far. Anyway, I really appreciate everybody who's been watching and subscribing. And if you haven't subscribed, please do. Until next time, Catus Maximus out.